My name is Ryan Harmon. I'm the editor of Aviation Business Middle East, and I'm joined today by Aziz Koleilat, President and CEO of GE Aerospace in the Mexis region. Aziz, how are you today?
Good. Ryan, thank you for this opportunity. It's always a pleasure to see you and to talk to you.
Yeah, amazing to have you here. And okay, we know aviation is such a crucial aspect of the economy here in the Middle East and really is driving the region forward. What can you kind of put down to its success over the last number of years?
The aviation industry is an advanced technical industry. Okay, it's a technology basically that's advanced in a sense where you need people that are highly trained, expertise, and with that, basically you build a whole ecosystem that's built around the airports. So you have a whole infrastructure that's being built now in the Middle East. You bring the whole industry into it from that area, and then you see this growth picking up. All the examples are available. If you look at, Dubai with the new airports, Jeddah is a new airport. The MRO, basically the business that's growing up in a sense of Dubai South, MRO in Jeddah. Abu Dhabi Mubadala has been investing basically in the aerospace sector for some time. And all this is going very quickly. We forget the fact that this is all in the past 5 years has been really booming. And then if you look at the vision forward that all these governments are putting in place, you could see the ambition kicking in. Now it's really about how do we work together from a standpoint of the private and the public sector to be able to build that infrastructure. But it's really an advanced technology that's being built around here that we're trying to focus on.
I think that idea of building those ecosystems is so important, and as you said, it's kind of what is driving everything right now. But in terms of taking that next step on, is that the collaboration side of things? Is that where we need to go to kind of ramp up and maintain this growth?
Definitely. If you take a step back and you see the growth of the economies, you see the airlines that are supporting this economy that are growing. Think of it this way: you have one of the largest wide-body fleets are in the region.
Yeah.
Okay. All the deals with Airbus, with Boeing, with us, with GE, with everyone. It's really a booming economy, and the whole basically aviation ecosystem is supporting it. You take that and then you think, okay, we need to support all of that growth by localizing capabilities. So you have to localize repair, you have to localize shop, you have to localize all the ecosystems. And that's where the governments are kicking in, again, along with the OEMs. So what you need people. So you start doing trainings. You have universities that are focused now on the aerospace sector. You have technical training that's now focused on the aviation sector. We have a training center, for example, in Doha, where we've trained thousands of technicians, that go through that. We have collaborations with certain airlines, with MROs, to build programs for them from that perspective. So to go back to your point, it is definitely a growing area, and we're playing a key part in that space.
I think that's an interesting point of, okay, GE Aerospace is a manufacturer first and foremost, but you're contributing to the wider growth of the industry. You mentioned the training facilities in Doha, for example. That's part of it, right? That's part of how things progress.
Look, we spoke about it a little bit before in a sense. If you think about, this is the starting point and it's going to take off. I cannot tell you how excited we are as GE Aerospace in a sense to be part of this growth. You go from pure maintenance, service and maintenance into a building an ecosystem. And then there are different pillars to it if you think about it. One is localizing our own repair and capabilities. On-wing support in Dubai, on-wing support in Doha. Training center in Doha. We have our Middle East Technology Center that sits basically in Dubai, where we have something called the analytic-based maintenance. That is basically where you create a digital twin and you create basically models of the engines so that you can service them better. Why? This region has a challenge of this, what we call hot and harsh environment. The sand, the temperature. So you have to create specific IP, specific technology for this environment. Foam wash that we've basically developed in this region for us to do that. So you go and you start building that capability. You localize it, you bring it here, you develop the technology for the region. With that, you start doing the training. You start transferring that technology to your partners, whether it is through repair with the MROs. You start talking to Sanad, you're doing repairs with them. You talk to others. They do basically maintenance of the engines. You start going that step. Then you go deeper in technology and training. So you could see this route that you're going through where you are really helping build the ecosystem around the region. And once you build that, there are lots of auxiliary things that happen around it. Supply chain, training, services, everything that builds around that. And then you could see that wave picking up, and suddenly you could see the volume that's going to grow from that area. And then it becomes really, global heavy industry that's sitting here. That's the vision that we have, and we're very happy to be part of that.
For sure. I think the Middle East is fast becoming a global leader, you could say, in the aerospace industry. And I think over the next few years, we'll see more and more of that. But you mentioned there kind of about that innovation point and the technology center you have here in Dubai. How important do you see that playing a role in developing capabilities that GE Aerospace has going forward?
Look, it is critical in a sense. At the end, for us, two main things are important. First thing, safety. Let's put that, safety is the critical part that we go to. So you have all the systems around them. Then you talk about basically time on wing efficiency that you drive. The key thing is the time on wing. And we have lots of resources that are in the region going back to really helping develop that technology. We've seen our engines, double time on wing, basically, for Gen X, GE90, and when they started, because we purely focused on the challenges they have in this region. So again, once you build that IP, you can take that and use it in the new engines. Like for example, the GE9X, which is going to be powering the 777X coming in, has taken all the technologies that we've learned in the past, Gen X, GE90, and we made sure that we tested for the hot and harsh environment even before we launch it. So what you'd see is basically a roadmap of learnings, IP development, and then you implement that in your new technologies coming in to be able, so when you introduce the new aircraft, you introduce the new engine, again, it'll be a faster adoption, a faster time on wing, more efficient for the airline, and it continues from that area. So again, it's a roadmap that is specifically focused on this region. That area. Yes, other regions also take, when you create, for example, a foam wash, it helps in different areas. It different that technologies. There's always basically a spillover, but the key focus for us, for me, for the team here, is the region.
Yeah, because we mentioned those hot and harsh climates that the aerospace industry has to operate in here, and you have to adapt to it. And those kind of technologies that you are developing, they're rolling out worldwide now, as you mentioned. As part of it, I think people are seeing the importance that this region has in shaping global conversations.
Definitely. I mean, just think of the amount of wide bodies deals that are happening in this region.
Yeah.
I mean, the Middle East has become, whether you're talking Dubai, Qatar, Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia, etc., they are in the middle between East and West. Traffic goes across. There are global hubs that they've created. So things have changed around the world in a sense, from that area where you create these hubs that are here. I mean, new airports, Qatar, Jeddah, Dubai is building another airport. I mean, if you add the numbers together, Abu Dhabi, you're talking about 250 million, 200 million passengers a year, 150 million. I mean, nobody talks about two-digit passengers anymore. I mean, you're talking all about three digits for, like 300 million passengers, 200 million. The numbers, I mean, you put them all together, they're staggering.
That's the scale.
And you're thinking this is a region that has a population of 50 million?
Yeah.
I mean, I keep talking to people, to think about how the governments are doing in building this infrastructure. You're talking about this population of 50 million, and then the ambition is to create these, and they're on the right track to create these basically mega institutions that are working. And to taking it a step back, for us, being part of that and being able to contribute and being able to support and sustain are exciting times. And we're just proud to be able to have those partnerships with the airlines and with the governments to be able to help that going forward, just because we see it going and it's exciting.
Yeah. Obviously, a big topic at the moment is the sustainability question that's going on across the aerospace industry. Is that something that you see really making tangible progress in the next 5 to 10 years?
Definitely, Hala. Look, on a sustainability standpoint, as I mentioned, we're looking at the now, the near, the next. That's the way we look at it. The now is about, focusing how best to minimize, carbon emissions and fuel consumption within what's available today. We have a whole department, organization that's called Software as a Solution, that has basically one of the solution that it gives, it's called, fuel efficient programs. I mean, most airlines in the regions have them, and what they look like, the pilots look at, see how much did they basically consume, and it does a comparison. You could be flying different routes. It does the comparison based how much air, tailwinds, headwinds. It does all the calculation, but it gives you really a certain standard for pilots to be able to measure themselves and the airline to measure itself. We also have a whole organization that's called, that focuses on carbon solutions. This is looking at contrails, software, etc. How do you really make sure that you reduce all of that? And then if I look at the next, you have the SAF. All our engines are certified for that. SAF, the critical part is the supply side, but we are ready for it. Okay. Then you talk about the future. In a sense, you have RISE. All the programs, all the technologies are being pulled together. I think it's going to be at the air show. You're going to see the engine there, where you'll see it's an open fan. It has some electromechanical technologies. It's a whole, basically, it's the future. We're looking at a reduction in fuel consumption of 20%. We're aiming for a reduction in carbon emissions of 20%. So taking it a step back, you see that we have basically a track that we're looking at with different milestones to be able to get to the 2050 IATA net zero. But it is definitely a critical part of what we do. Everything we think about, we had mentioned earlier foam wash. Yeah. Foam wash itself reduces because it creates efficiencies. So the more efficient the engine is, it is. But it is definitely a critical part of what we do. It is definitely part of our roadmap in a sense of what offerings, technology as we go forward.
Something you touched on briefly earlier as well is that role of kind of public-private partnerships and collaboration between all the entities here in the region. How do you see that progressing moving forward? Do you think that's something, I think we all know the region is open to government collaboration with private sector companies. Do you see that positively moving forward in the future?
I think it's extremely positive. And the way it's being done in a sense of having focus on sectors is definitely the starting point. Yeah. You see now each government has a sector focus, which is, aviation, logistics, aerospace, you have that. So it starts within all the countries when they're looking at their strategic plans, Vision 2030, Vision 2033, whatever they are, your 10, 15 plan. There is a specific pillar in their strategy that talks about aerospace. So that's the starting point. From that, you can go across the region and you see you have the building blocks around it. Yeah. You have Mubadala has an aerospace. Abu Dhabi ADQ has, PIF has. So suddenly you see even the sovereign wealth funds, Qatar, same thing. They have a specific strategy around it. So you have this. So then you see the investments. So you have a plan, you have an investment. And then you have the system and the discussions with people, with companies like us to be able to execute on that. So the pillars are there, the funding is there, the vision is there, and we are working together on some things. If you look at Sanad's success, it is because of us working together with them, not just us, I'm talking ecosystem. Same thing in Saudi. Training centers that we have in Doha, as I mentioned, it is part of helping them build that ecosystem. So going back to your point, your question is, do I see it positive? Yes. Does our organization see it positive? Definitely. We're very excited about it. And then you'll see as we go forward, there's going to be more and more of these collaboration as we go through, for that. But definitely it's a key pillar to the success.
Looking ahead to the next couple of years, where is your efforts and your focus going to be predominantly?
Look, our focus first and foremost is to support our partners. Definitely the airlines that we work with, the airlines that have put their trust in selecting our engines and our service and our support are the most important part. Your safety, again, the quality, all these things that we talk about is the primary focus that we need to make. Then the key, if I think of it as, a value pyramid from that perspective, then the next part becomes, as we spoke about it, is the technical, the industry, the technology transfer. Yeah. Your on-wing support trainings, showing what can be done. Working with the airlines to start building their own capabilities. So this is things that you'll see. We're already talking with, Emirates has their own shops. We work with them on the G engines, the GP engines. We're talking Saudi Arabia, we're talking Qatar. So that's the next step. So next step is the transfer of technology along with the trainings. The trainings are going to be two parts, directly with the airlines and then with institutions. So if you think about it, you're supporting your customer, and then adding value in a sense of transfer of technology and helping them develop the skills. So you could see that. So the next 2 years is really setting those foundations so that 5-7 years from now, again, you get this exponential growth of boom of being able to capacity, and the volume that's coming in can be basically done and delivered and repaired in the region.
So when we speak about that exponential growth, do you see that continuing in the years to come?
Look, definitely. I mean, we spoke about, the public investment from that area. And if I go back historically, 20 years ago, if you'd have thought, or somebody has asked, is the growth that we are in here now, is that real? People would have thought that you're dreaming. They would have thought that you're not being realistic. But if you look at the past 20 years and all the projects that have happened in the region, yeah, some of them have had some hiccups, but that's normal. But they've all basically succeeded. Dubai has grown, the airports, Saudi Arabia is growing, Qatar, Abu Dhabi. I mean, everybody is growing in a way that is, impressive. And the amount of events and pull factors that they've created in the region, we were talking about the F1 in Abu Dhabi. We're talking about the F1 in Jeddah. We're talking about the World Cup that was in Qatar. I mean, these are events, if 20 years ago you would have said this is going to happen in the region, I don't think people would have taken us seriously.
Yeah.
So you take that and you just, project it forward. You don't have to project it in a ridiculous manner. You just project it on a simple, straight growth area. You can imagine where that can be in 7 years.
Yeah.
So to go back to, definitely we see that growing. There's going to be, lots of growth. And we're really very, very proud and very happy to be able to be part of this growth and to be able to contribute to it.
Aziz, thank you very much for joining me today. A pleasure.
Thank you very much for hosting, Ryan. It's a pleasure.